The concept that God spoke the world into existence is a common one in religious and philosophical thought, often associated with the creation narratives in the Bible, such as Genesis 1, Psalms 33, 6-9, and John 1, 1-3. In this view, God's spoken word is the creative force that brought the universe and everything in it into being. Whilst Al-Quran doesn't exactly describe creation through speech, it does describe God's creative powers through his command, similar to the concept of God's word. However, the Arabic language and its letters are seen as the building blocks of God's cosmos, especially in publications like Shams al-Ma'arif, hence the use of magic squares. The concept of creation in Hinduism is complex, but some interpretations suggest that the universe arises from the desire or will of a divine being to experience itself, a concept which is repeated within Islam. Some philosophical arguments for God's existence draw on the principle of cause and effect, suggesting that the universe, as an effect, must have a cause, and that cause is God. Language and magic are deeply intertwined, with language often playing a crucial role in magical practices. Words are frequently used to invoke, direct and channel supernatural forces. A language functions as a tool for communication with the unseen, a means of shaping reality and a system for encoding and transmitting magical knowledge. Many forms of magic rely on specific words or phrases, incantations, are believed to have inherent powers or activate magical effects. A language is central to many rituals where spoken words accompany actions, gestures and visualizations to achieve a desired outcome. Beyond spoken words, symbols and written characters can be imbued with magical significance, acting as a focal points for intent and energy. Some magical traditions believe that language can be used to communicate with spirits, deities or other entities, facilitating interactions and influencing events. The concept of words as action suggests that language can have a tangible impact on reality, influencing events and manifesting intentions. The intent behind the word spoken or written is considered crucial in magical practices. When combined with focused intention, language can be a powerful tool for shaping reality. Through specific words, phrases, or even entire languages, individuals can attempt to transform themselves, their circumstances, or even the world around them. Charms are objects inscribed with written words or spells. In its most basic form, this might be just a piece of paper with a word, a phrase, or symbol written on it, carried on the person. These are usually protective or used to draw particular energy or item. Orisons are magical prayers. The real intent of the spell is hidden using Christian words and imagery. Blessings can be a form, any religious or spiritual tradition or background, and usually spoken words intended to bring good fortune upon the recipient. Curses are the opposite of blessings. Curses are usually spoken words, sometimes with accompanying actions, and again can be from any spiritual background. These, though, are intended to bring misfortune upon the recipient. Conjurations are usually spoken, but perhaps recorded in grimoires or other magical texts. These are used to summon supernatural beings or forces. They're used to control those being summoned and usually invoke very specific actions performed with the words. To name is to master is a common thread in magic throughout many traditions. In folklore around the world, stories tell of how the protagonist must learn the names of some being or other if they wish to achieve their desires. This is why many witches choose a magical name for themselves, as there is a power in self-determination. But also many choose to keep this secret and only reveal to their coven because of the power contained in a name, and indeed why Javanese children's names are changed, so that I still don't know my wife's real name. Names are important in spells of conjuration, especially the names of parents and ancestors. To name a being, power or energy, is to control that entity. This is usually done in magics involving powerful or potentially malefic energies. Certain magical traditions enjoy secret or esoteric languages, such as Enochian, often with hidden meanings and specific pronunciations believed to possess potent magical properties. Despite my own experience that the paranormal does not use language as such, but what we might call telepathy. Thus there is no need to use specific languages. In many magical traditions, the ability to name something correctly grants power over it. This highlights the significance of accurate language and precise terminology. A language is constantly evolving and shifts in the way words are used and understood, and can reflect broader cultural and social changes. The stories we tell ourselves and others, and the language we use to construct these narratives, play a significant role in shaping our identity and understanding of the world. By choosing our words carefully and understanding the power of language, we can influence our own perceptions and potentially affect the world around them. We all use language every day without even thinking of it. And many of us speak to ourselves, many hear voices. This is not abnormal. But then many do not do these things. Thus our relationship with language and cognition isn't universal, or at least it doesn't appear to be. Also, we think we know the origins of language, but do we really? How many of us question the true origin of languages rather than follow the explanation for almost everything of cavemen sitting around a fire? The origin of language, its relationship with human evolution and its consequences have been the subject of study for centuries. Scholars wishing to study the origins of language draw inferences from evidence such as the fossil record, archaeological evidence, and contemporary language diversity. They may well also study language acquisition as comparison between human languages and system of animal communication, particularly other primates. Many argue for close relations between the origins of language and the origins of modern human behaviour, but there's little agreement about the facts and implications of this connection. Attempts to explain the origin of language take a variety of forms. Continuity theories build on the idea that language exhibits so much complexity that one cannot imagine it simply appearing from nothing in its final form. Therefore, it must have evolved from earlier pre-linguistic systems amongst humans' primitive ancestors. Whereas discontinuity theories take the opposite approach, stating that language, as a unique trait that cannot be compared to anything found amongst non-humans, must have appeared fairly suddenly during the course of human evolution. Some theories consider language mostly an innate faculty, largely genetically encoded. Other theories regard language as a mainly cultural system that is learned through social interaction. And Muslim scholars develop theories on the origin of language from 5 general types. A naturalistic, that there is a natural relation between the expression and things they signify. A language thus emerged from a natural human inclination to imitate the sounds of nature. Conventionist, language is a social convention. The names of things are arbitrary inventions of humans. A revelationist, language was gifted to humans by God. It was thus God and not humans who named everything. Revelationist, conventionalist, God revealed to humans a core base of language, enabling humans to communicate with each other, and then humans invented the rest of language. Non-committal, the view that the conventionalist and revelation theorists are equally plausible. And most mythologies do not credit humans with the invention of language, but speak of a divine language predating human language. A mystical language is used to communicate with animals or spirits, such as the language of birds, are also common and were particularly of interest during the Renaissance. And Noam Chomsky, a proponent of discontinuity theory, argues that a single change occurred in humans before leaving Africa, coincident with a great leap approximately 100,000 years ago, in which a common faculty developed in a group of humans and their descendants. Chomsky bases his arguments on observation that any human baby of any culture can be raised in a different culture and will completely assimilate the language and behaviour of the new culture in which they were raised. This implies that no major change to human language faculty has occurred since they left Africa. Some important questions regard the amount of innate language. If language acquisition is a special faculty in the mind, and what the connection is between thoughts and languages. Many philosophers of language, since Plato and Aristotle, have considered language as a man-made tool for making statements or propositions about the world on the basis of predicate argument structure. During the 19th century, when sociological questions remained under psychology, language and language change were thought of as arising from human psychology and the collective unconscious mind of the community shaped by its history. But Emil Durkheim successfully separated sociology from psychology, and thus established it as an autonomous science. Developing on from Durkheim, Saussure concluded that language is a social fact. Language is a dual system of interactive subsystems, a conceptual system and a system of linguistic forms. A language as a system does not arise from the physical world, but from the contrast between the concepts and the contrast between the linguistic forms. Throwing a further thought out that may not be relevant, but how did language change after writing? After all, language was solely oral for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. For example, prior to writing, did we even have a concept of distinct words? You will be aware of my interest in AI and critique of large language models. But interestingly, computer scientists have developed radical new theories related to the development of our language, which is really why I became interested in AI in the first place. My critique is based on the commercialisation of these models and how they've been applied to areas that really should never have been deployed in. Thus, I would argue that they may be artificial but not intelligent, whereas some computer scientists disagree with me. Not that these models are intelligent, but that they are beginning to question if they're artificial. Large language models use prediction to convince humans that they are fellow humans, the Turing test. This suggests that language contains an auto-regression predictive structure to auto-generate itself. That they are solely trained on words, not necessarily structures of words or meanings. That they appear to work so well might suggest that they're closer to how humans think than we care to consider. Scientists such as Professor Ellen Barinholtz suggest that the language is an autonomous information system which is not reliant on processes within the brain. Indeed, the linguistic system appears to process information independently of other sensory systems. This is revolutionary, as it means that language has not developed from our senses, but is independent of them. Indeed, Ellen Barinholtz hypothesizes that language is external to humans, maybe even given to us by an external force. He's careful not to talk of gods, demons or aliens, but of course this is at the heart of the external entity psychology argument that I am preoccupied with. In fact, he is more likely to ascribe this to culture, but he never really questions where this culture, or I might say hegemony, comes from. He thus inverts the standard model of language that words point to meanings, that our rationalist linguistic minds severed from us from the rest of God's creation. He develops this to pose the question, what else resides within our brains? Are these other processes which we have not captured via traditional biomechanical or even psychological theories? Thus language associates certain words with other words rather than ascribing true meaning to them. Indeed, language doesn't know that these words extend beyond the world of language itself. You'll now appreciate how his theory developed from an understanding of how language models work. Large language models only predict the next word, not require comprehension of their meaning. Ellen Barinholtz argues that humans do the same, despite both the models and humans appearing to have a sense of time, that is the past and the future. This would mean that memory is not encoding of sequences, but the capacity of an auto-regressively generate them in real time. That is non-Markovian. That there is no long and short-term memory, simply an auto-regressive generation of the next word. He shows how this works by experiments with models that have been trained on language, being able to predict in another language. Strangely, this has great resonance with my view that there is no past nor future, only their creation on the fly in the current. Barinholtz has thus completely inverted my critique of large language models, agreeing that they're not intelligent, but questioning whether we ourselves are intelligent, using the models we assume to signify intelligence. Professor William Hahn adds to this auto-regression means that simply doing things generates new actions and connections. Fascinating, he also hypothesizes that human language developed from hearing other animals such as birdsong. Remember the medieval preoccupation with talking to birds? But also the belief that there existed a universal proto-language, often seen as being given to man by God, or that language developed in cities through the need to work in teams. Of course, such ideas are dependent on us accepting that we are software, which is William Hahn's argument. You may therefore believe that I'm highly sceptical of such arguments, as it seems to me with every new technology we apply it to humans, if only as an analogy. Certainly we can trace this back to the Enlightenment, when everything, including humans, was believed to operate like a machine. Regrettably, this itself has a major impact on knowledge and our ability to think. Indeed, Hahn hypothesizes that if we were to learn birdsong, it would fundamentally change the way we think. Furthermore, I'm always sceptical of theories which place man above the rest of God's creation. Any consideration of language by default establishes this hierarchy on the assumption that language is superior to animal or even plant and inanimate object communication. When I see this as being similar to how man supplanted natural time with mechanical time, in that it's hardly progress. In fairness to Berenholtz, he does appear to recognise my concern, and indeed, like I, suggest that animal communication may be closer to natural communication than humans who have been diverted by language. Indeed, there is much in these ideas that has great resonance with what I've already thought about what I call consciousness, despite large language models not having and never will develop consciousness. Furthermore, you will be aware that I'm highly sceptical of literal interpretations of the scriptures. These new theories would suggest that words do not have fixed meanings and hence change over time and between the observer. But maybe the greatest challenge which I must take on board is that our very thoughts and indeed lives are part of a non-Markovian auto-regressive potentiality model. When I've looked at quantum physics and especially the double slit experiment, it occurred to me that all things lie on this potentiality curve. There is no right nor wrong, only more or less likely, and that is dependent on the population. This could mean that we do shape our reality along this potentiality curve. A language could be the key to how we move along this potentiality curve, and thus reality. Which brings us back to the notion that magic can be used to shift our reality through language.